So we were talking in our last episode about Stephen Miller, lots of very enthusiastic comments trying to get at who is this man that's been so responsible for the policy against immigrants and these awful ICE raids on people with masked men jumping out and wrestling people and zip tying them. I mean, it's quite shocking. I still don't think I understand where his so-called philosophy, if one can even call it that, comes from in terms of hating people that very clearly work at the top of the American food chain in tech in California, and also literally till the fields and pick the plants and pick the vegetables and fruits that keep Americans fed.
You know, I mean, I think explaining the roots of racism, which this fundamentally is, and the roots of this kind of resentment against a whole class of people is, I mean, the immigration issue is a complicated one. Immigration, and the Democrats have failed on this issue, and I think we can acknowledge that. I think the Democrats would acknowledge that. When you don't pay attention to immigration, when there isn't some logic to it, when you close your eyes to it, and suddenly it becomes an unstoppable force, is destabilizes governments. It's throughout Europe. That's the effect. And here it's the effect, but that's ultimately a structural question. How do you manage this process, this inevitable process? People want to come to this country. That's a sign of health rather than the opposite. But how do you manage that? Then you but that has to be juxtaposed to this other thing, which Stephen Miller represents, which is a kind of pure hatred, revulsion, enmity. That for him to take this in such a clearly personal way. And you know, I mean, I think it's glare. I mean, the interesting thing is it's so glaringly obvious. There's no even pretense to make this something else, to find a reasonable rationalization for this. So, you know, I mean, it becomes you know. I think at this point you know why one hesitates to go there for a lot of reasons. You know, this is a roundup of the Jews, but they're not Jews. They're brown immigrants.
Can you remind people again, because I was struck that I didn't fully realize this. Why is it specifically Mexicans and South Americans that Stephen Miller seems to be going after?
I don't think that's true. I think it's anybody who's brown. Indians are in this. It's just clearly not people who are white. And this goes to something that is at the heart of MAGA. I think it's at the heart of a Trump thing, that this idea that we are losing, that within you know, we're in the process of white Americans becoming a minority to brown Americans, and so there's the effort to exclude the people who Stephen Miller believes are not Americans, brown people. So this is a fundamental to the Trump administration is this rollback. How do we make America look like it looked in 1965? And that's a rollback of and we've discussed this before, and I think these are the pillars of the MAGA vision: to roll back civil rights, to roll back the progress of equity for women, and for to change to roll back what has happened with a fairly large amount of immigration, massive immigration, over the last generation, brown immigration.
So how does this work when Stephen Miller is in the room with J.D. Vance? And of course, J.D. Vance is married to a woman whose parents came from India, who's very clearly brown. How do they even begin a conversation?
I've gone around to several White House people, and I said, explain Stephen Miller to me. What? Because he's, I mean, as we talked the other day, he's a weirdo. Even Trump acknowledges that he's a weirdo. So I said, explain this to me. Explain this rise. How does he keep rising? And across the board, there's one explanation, and everybody rushes to it. They say he's the most incredible suck-up. You have never seen this. I mean, the flattery, the ooze. When he is in the room with the president, with Trump, it just can't stop. And it's one of the few things. And as I say, several people are reporting this to me. It's one of the few things that makes Trump shut up. He just likes to listen. How does his career continue to flourish when everybody knows he's a weirdo? Even the president, even Trump acknowledges he's a weirdo. He's not really somebody anybody is comfortable with, who you really want to be around, and who you might trust on any matter, because he's so weird. Looking at you with those weird eyes. But at any rate, everybody responds the same way, and they rush to say it. He survives and thrives because he's such an amazing suck-up. Of course he likes to listen to this. So this is what all of this ICE picking up people, masks, sweeping people off the street, this whole effort to remake The Color of America really comes down to Stephen Miller's ability to flatter the president.
But Michael, we are in a cabinet of suck-ups. Nobody sucks up as well as Pete Hegseth is always sucking up. Marco Rubio's sucking up.
No. That's what I'm saying. Even more than Hegseth, he sucks up. So he is the winner. Stephen Miller is the winner of the suck-up contest.
Even more than the Labour Secretary who said, Mr. President, we have hung a huge, great tapestry of your face on the side of the Labour Department. Even more than that person.
Yes, even more. I mean, and everybody has to do this. This is the price. These are the table stakes. How much you can be absolutely prostrate in your flattery of the president. Those are the table stakes, and then you have to raise them. Who can do it even more? And that apparently is Stephen Miller.
So can you give us any elements of Miller suck-uppery? I mean, how does he go above Pete Hegseth or the Labour Secretary? What are the words? Is it something in the tone of his voice? Does he bring him gifts? What is the? It
is just these kinds of statements. You have to. I mean, the essence of flattery is, and flattery to a degree beyond logic, is shamelessness. How shameless are you? Your ability to say this shit that nobody else was, nobody in their right mind, nobody who has a degree of objectivity or integrity, or all of the attributes that make for some level of skepticism and independence. So putting all that aside, and if you can put all that aside, and it's hard, then you produce a kind of thing that you would not, anyone else outside of this who might listen to it would understand that you're that you're just you've given up yourself. You've given up. You have no inner self anymore, and it's all directed to this goal of what you want, which then comes through the this one man who needs to be needs to be flattered, not just flattered, but more than the last person who flattered him.